Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla, the Board of Governors, members of the IIM-A Society, Professor Ashish Nanda, and distinguished faculty. Thank you for inviting me here today. To the proud parents and family members and the graduating class of 2017, heartiest congratulations. It's a real privilege for me to return to campus, stand at this end of the podium, and speak to you on a day which is likely the most memorable day in your lives so far. It's hard for me to believe that it's 37 years that have passed since the day I was sitting where you are today. I remember a myriad of emotions from that day. Pride at having got thus far, anxiety about what the future might bring, and eagerness for the next phase of life. As I drove in today, I noticed that a lot has changed about the campus. But there's much that's proven ageless. This iconic Luica Plaza has retained its elegance and charm through the ages, and as I sat there through this presentation, I could see the full power of the plaza. The Harvard steps in the main entrance, well, I can almost taste all the bun omelets I've had here all those years ago. These are the elements of the IIM Ahmedabad experience that have always stayed with me and will stay with you too. Cherish them while you still can. 2 years ago, you chose to seek a management education at IIM Ahmedabad. That choice has given you many privileges. You've been exposed to the most advanced toolkit for modern business managers. The case study method has given you technical skills that the best managements in the world are looking to build. You've been stepping into the shoes of professional managers, honing your skills on real-life situations, very similar to what you'll be handling soon, and you've enjoyed the company and camaraderie of friends who will be your peers throughout your professional life. This is a formidable toolkit. I can vouch for it. But remember that it's merely that, a toolkit. Once you step out of the safe cocoon of campus and into the real world, the outcomes you achieve as a professional will depend only a small part on how well you put this toolkit to use. In large measure, your success as a professional is likely to hinge on choices you make in your life. You are poised to enter the real world tomorrow. The choices you make there will define who you become. As Dumbledore told Harry, it's our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities, and so will yours. As I reflect on my own life, I believe that there are 3 choices that have particularly shaped who I am today. Choices that you might face yourself soon. Today, I want to talk to you about those 3 choices. The first, in life you will encounter forks in the road ever so often. And when you do, you will find yourself answering an unasked question. Do you want to stay with the path well known? Or do you want to venture forth into uncharted waters, unmapped territories? The choice of which road you take will shape who you become. For me, more often than not, I chose the road less traveled, and it has indeed made all the difference. It started early in my career with an opportunity to be part of the startup team of ICICI Securities, a joint venture with JP Morgan. My career thus far had been steady and successful. To go off that predictable and well-known, well-trodden path to set up a JV with a global major was nerve-wracking, but eventually rewarding. Similar forks in the road presented themselves multiple times thereafter. After my first years as a corporate banker and about 5 more as an investment banker, the organization offered me a chance to pivot once again, this time to set up the personal financial services business. I must admit my nervousness. I was really scared. Retail finance was a much debated diversification for the group, and I had zero exposure to it. The institution and I were both taking a big bet, but as it turned out, it worked just fine. A few years later, yet another pivot, this time to leave banking altogether and set out to establish a life insurance company. A few exciting years later, one more fork in the road. I decided to return to banking to lead Axis Bank, the organization that I've been proudly associated with ever since. So why all these pivots, these journeys into roads less traveled? For me, the key driver has always been the same, the learning curve. We live in extraordinary times. In the 90s, the US Army College coined a term to describe the world order that emerged after the Cold War. They called it VUCA. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the term, which has increasingly become a part of the modern day business vocabulary. We live in a world where the rate of change is constantly increasing. The effectiveness of our response strategies is increasingly uncertain. The number of variables at play are ever higher, and there's vanishingly few situations where there's a clear right answer. How do you thrive in such a VUCA world? My answer has been with learning agility. So keep learning, and keep learning from whoever you can learn from. The more learning curves I climb, the more complex and novel situations I put myself in, the more likely that I will continue to remain relevant. Growth begins where comfort zone ends. Every time I found myself at one of life's crossroads, I've tried to ask myself, which path offers me the steeper learning curve? And more often than not, I've tried to take that path. I've tried to learn new ways to learn, and slowly but surely, learning itself has become a habit. So that is one important choice you'll be making in your lives starting tomorrow. When two roads diverge in the wood, which one will you take and why? The second choice set that I want to talk to you about is your choice of a life partner. Yes, it's a cliche to say that the choice of a life partner is the single most important choice you will make in your life. But of course, it's a cliche because it's true. As Jackson Brown wrote, choose your life's mate carefully. From this one decision will come 90% of all your happiness and misery. I don't know about the 90%, but I do know that much of the joy you derive on the journey of life does hark back to who you choose to share this journey with. A lot of what I am today, the achievements that were so kindly mentioned by the chairman during the introduction, are a function of the partner I was lucky to have alongside my journey. Sanjay and I are both alumni of IIM-A. We are very different people. He's widely read, divergent thinking, and creative. During the discussions with the faculty, Professor Raghuram pointed out what I was like. Linear thinking, introverted, timid. So very different personalities. But on the most important thing, we're not different at all. We have very similar core values. If I were to point out the one thing that has made our partnership successful, it's just that, the alignment on core values. And indulge me for a minute if I sound like a mom here, but when you're out there looking for a partner, look beyond their looks, their success, their style. The durability and strength of your relationship is not going to come from your partner's personality. It is going to come from their character. So remember to look well beneath the surface. My discussion of partner choice so far seems to have been about life partners. But as professionals, you will find that they're frequently faced with very similar choices, that of organizations or teams. And the principles that make for lasting relationships with your work team or with your organization aren't terribly different from those that make lasting personal relationships. It's easy to get enamored by the visible and superficial details of a new job you're considering. My kids and I had this conversation all the time, right? The money, the fancy title, the foosball table in the break room, they're all very exciting. But in most cases, that's not what makes for a fulfilling career. You want to join an organization that has values that match yours, that has people you can be yourself with, that gives you the space to be who you have the potential to be as a professional. These are not things that any firm can tell you in their pre-placement talk. It's something that you can only find out the hard way by doing your own research, by looking beneath the surface. So that's that's the second major choice of my life, the choice of a partner. Before I talk to you about my third life-defining choice, let me tell you a story. I was an eager young girl in class 5 when this story took place. Imagine me, 4 feet tall, in school uniform and pigtails. Yes, I had pigtails those days. I was a competitive girl and had my heart set on standing first in our class. As the year drew to a close, I knew I had done well, but the outcome was far from certain. On this particular day, our class teacher sat in front of the class and went through all the report cards one by one. Satisfied that everything was in order, she sorted the report cards by rank, stacked them up, added a blank paper on top, and secured the stack with a rubber band. Much of the class was uninterested in the proceedings, but for me, that stack was the center of my existence. It was all I had eyes for. The teacher snapped the rubber band to make sure all was well, looked up and called out for me. "Can you take these to the staff room, please? And don't peep." Now imagine the scene there, right? A restless girl, all of 10 years old, walking with a stack of report cards in her hand. All I could think of, that entire walk to the staff room, was which report card was on top. And all it would take to know the fate of my ear was a quick peek. Experiences build character, and that walk built mine. Do you think I peeped? No, right? Which gets me to the third and final far-reaching choice. When faced with the minor moral dilemmas of every day, what do you choose to do? You can do the expedient thing, make the practical choice, take the shortcut. Or you can be led by what you believe to be the right thing to do. Every time you decide to take the harder but more principled path, you add one more brick to the foundation of your character. And every time you choose to compromise with what you believe in, you give yourself the license to do it again. And you take one brick away from the building of your character. We live in a world today that's infinitely connected and has unlimited memory. For those of you who are on social media all the time, you know, no part of your history ever truly fades away. This is particularly true if you intend to be a successful professional. Each and every one of you today, with the privilege of these robes that you're wearing, has the opportunity to be amongst the most successful people of your generation. I was telling one of the guys, I'm waiting to see which one of you is going to create the next Google or the Facebook or make a difference to government policy or companies. So I know all of you are going to have great careers unless you veer away from your moral compass. Remember, everything you do today is for better or for worse in the public gaze and the public's interpretation of it, their retelling of it, even their memory of it. It's very likely to be imperfect, even unfair. I guess many of you have seen the YouTube videos of Travis Kalanick's argument with an Uber driver and his subsequent mea culpa. Well, Axis Bank and I as the leader, we've had more than our fair share of public gaze recently in the last few months. You can keep railing against the unfairness of the omnipresent media's judgment of your every act, but that's simply not productive. Just remember, the only real armor you have is to always do what you believe to be the right thing to do. Let your principles be your true north. Not just because it's morally correct, but as one of my mentors once told me, Shikha, you'll go a long way, and doing the right thing will help you stay there. So remember that. Every time you're tempted, just remember that. You're going to go a long way, and doing the right thing is what's going to help you stay there. So there, you have it. The three major choices that have shaped my life. Choosing the road less traveled, choosing partnerships based on core values and common goals, and choosing to always do the right thing. Remember, it's the only thing that will stand you in good stead when you face your share of the adverse public gaze. Class of 2017, I hope you realize how extraordinarily privileged you are to be sitting on these lawns today, to be wearing those robes, to be next to the amazing people you have called friends for 2 years. The further you get in time, the more surreal this day will seem to you. So do soak in the wonder of it all. You know, it's always hard to notice history as it's being made. No moment in our lives comes with a flashing breaking news banner. Time and distance offer us the perspective to realize that the moment you experienced was indeed history making. In your personal lives, you're living through one of those moments today. And as a nation, we are living through just such a period right now. This is India's time in the sun. You heard Mr. Birla say that as well. It's our time as a nation to regain our fair share of global economic production, of trade, of arts, culture, innovation. As graduates of IIM-A, the well-known Institute of Management in Western India, I presume it's still called that, right? It is incumbent upon you to lead from the front in the building of our nation. Whether you plan to join a multi-billion-dollar firm or seed a startup, you form the talent engine that the India story is depending on. As you make choices that maximize your potential, do remember, you are also part of something larger than yourselves. You have the potential to reshape our country, and the country eagerly awaits that reshaping. Your choices will define you and your society, so choose wisely. I said earlier that you're poised to enter the real world tomorrow. That's true, but that's tomorrow. Today, go party. And thank you so much for your patience.